The taste of ash coated Elias Mercer's tongue as he crawled from beneath the rubble of what had once been Chicago's underground transit system. 3 days had passed since the orbital bombardment. 3 days of darkness, silence, and the acrid smell of a burning world. His military intelligence training had saved him, that and blind luck. When the evacuation sirens blared, he'd gone down instead of up, into the deepest maintenance tunnels where he'd cached emergency supplies months ago. Not from paranoia, but preparation. The aliens' attack patterns had been predictable to those paying attention. Elias winced as he pulled himself onto the ruined street. Blood had dried across his forehead where debris had struck him during the initial blast. His body, once strong and confident from years of special operations, now moved with cautious pain. Nothing was broken, but everything hurt. The skyline he remembered no longer existed. In its place stood the massive obsidian ships of the Vextar, hovering like monolithic gravestones above a cemetery of skyscrapers. "Preliminary biological scan complete," he muttered to himself, recalling the alien language he'd spent years studying. In secret. Indigenous resistance, neutralized. The words had been broadcast across every functioning communication device 12 hours ago. The alien General Kiravon, her voice like broken glass sliding across metal, declaring victory, declaring extinction. They were wrong. Elias pulled the tattered collar of his jacket higher against the toxic wind and moved through shadows. Military intelligence had prepared contingency plans for this scenario, plans the generals had dismissed as unnecessary apocalyptic fantasies. But Elias had memorized every detail, every fallback location. The biotech research facility on the outskirts of the ruined city was his destination. If anything remained of Project Lazarus, it would be there. Night fell by the time he reached the facility. The security doors hung open, emergency generators humming weakly. Bodies of researchers littered the entrance. They'd tried to evacuate too late. The ambient lighting flickered as Elias navigated the deserted corridors. His fingers traced the wall for stability as exhaustion threatened to overcome him. 3 days without proper sleep had taken their toll. In the central laboratory, he found it, the sealed containment unit marked with biohazard symbols, surprisingly intact. Inside, suspended in pale blue fluid, floated what looked like ordinary silver dust. Project Lazarus, nanites designed to interface with alien neural technology, offensive weapons deemed too unethical to deploy until now. "Too late for ethics," Elias whispered, his voice cracking from disuse. As he worked to extract the nanite solution, a holographic broadcast illuminated the room. Kiravon's face filled the display, angular, with skin the color of burnished copper, and eyes like polished onyx, beautiful in a terrifying way. She stood atop the ruins of the Willis Tower, medals gleaming on her ceremonial armor. Each medal, Elias knew, contained metal from destroyed human vehicles, buildings, weapons, trophies of conquest. "The human infestation has been purged," she announced to her gathered officers. Their resistance was disappointing. Something hardened in Elias's chest. Not just anger, but resolve, crystallizing into something dangerous. He examined the nanite solution, now loaded into an injector designed for his own use. The nanites would bond with his nervous system first, allowing him to control their deployment wirelessly. It would be painful. It might kill him, but he was already dead to the world. As Kiravon continued her victory speech, Elias plunged the injector into his forearm. Fire spread through his veins as the nanites integrated with his system. He collapsed to his knees, barely suppressing a scream. Through watering eyes, he looked up at Kiravon's projection. "You missed one," he whispered through gritted teeth, "and that's all it takes." When the pain subsided, Elias felt different, connected. Information flowed through his consciousness. The location of nearby Vextar communication nodes, troop, movements, security protocols. He stood on unsteady legs, pocketing several vials of the nanite solution. The war wasn't over. In fact, for General Kiravon, the true terror was just beginning. Elias Mercer, the ghost of Chicago, the phantom of a dead world, slipped back into the shadows, carrying humanity's last, darkest weapon. And for the first time since the invasion, he smiled. 6 weeks after the fall of Earth, alien Lieutenant Dravmore noticed the first anomaly. The Northern Communication Relay, silent. Standard protocol dictated immediate investigation, yet when his squad arrived, they found only empty corridors and disabled systems, no signs of struggle, no bodies, just emptiness and a single human word scrawled in bioluminescent ink that faded minutes after discovery. Phantom. General Kiravon dismissed the incident as isolated, a malfunction perhaps. Residual resistance from automated human defense systems. Nothing warranted concern. Then her officers began disappearing. Elias watched from the ventilation shaft as 2 Vextar guards dragged away Commander Zethlar's body. The nanite solution had worked perfectly, infiltrating the commander's neural network through a seemingly harmless scratch on his exoskeletal armor. Within hours, the alien's synapses had short-circuited, leaving nothing but a lifeless husk. 3 down. Hundreds to go. "You'll get yourself killed at this rate," came a whisper from behind him. Elias spun, combat knife drawn before his mind registered the voice as human. A woman crouched in the shadows, her face smudged with tactical camouflage, eyes sharp with intelligence and wariness. "Who are you?" Elias demanded, keeping his voice low. "Dr. Vivian Thornton, Project Lazarus." She nodded toward his forearm, where the injection site had healed into an intricate pattern of silver lines beneath his skin. "You're using my research to wage a one-man war. Impressive, but inefficient." Elias studied her, mid-30s perhaps, with close-cropped dark hair and the lean physique of someone who'd survived on minimal resources. "I thought all the researchers were dead." "Not all." Her gaze hardened. "I was off-site when the attack hit. Been tracking unusual electrical anomalies. For weeks. Found your handiwork. If you're here to stop me, I'm here to help you not waste my life's work." She produced a small drive from her pocket. "You're delivering the nanites manually, slow, detectable. I have the schematics for their command ship's central ventilation system." Elias hesitated. Trust was a luxury he'd abandoned with the old world, yet Vivian's knowledge could prove invaluable. "How do I know you're not compromised?" he asked. "The Vextar have human collaborators." Vivian's expression tightened with anger. "They killed everyone I loved, my colleagues, my partner." She pushed up her sleeve, revealing similar silver lines running beneath her skin. "I've injected myself too. The nanites bind to human DNA differently. They enhance rather than destroy our neural pathways. I know you've felt it." She wasn't wrong. Since the injection, Elias's reflexes had sharpened, his mental processing accelerated. Side effects the military had deemed acceptable risks. "We could amplify the signal," Vivian continued, "create a cascading failure across their entire command structure. Something unspoken passed between them, recognition of shared purpose, shared pain." "One condition," Elias said. "Kiravon is mine." Vivian's eyes met his, an unexpected softness momentarily replacing her clinical efficiency. "The architect of Earth's destruction." "Agreed." They established a base in the ruins of an underground research bunker. As Vivian worked to recalibrate the nanites' programming, Elias continued his targeted strikes against Vextar outposts. Each successful operation brought more alien technology back to Vivian. Days passed in a strange rhythm of danger and rare moments of respite. During one such moment, as they shared a meager meal of preserved rations, Vivian studied Elias's face in the dim light. "What did you lose?" she asked quietly. Elias kept his eyes on the tactical display. "Everything, nothing specific, just Everything. That's not an answer. I was military intelligence. No family, few friends. He finally met her gaze. But I watched a civilization die. That's enough. Vivian's hand brushed his as she reached for her water. The touch, simple human contact, sent an unexpected jolt through him. How long since he'd felt something other than rage or tactical calculation? The nanites enhance emotional responses too, she said, as if reading his thoughts. Makes us more human while making them less alien. Is that why I can't sleep? The nightmares are more vivid. Yes, her fingers lingered near his, but so are other sensations. The air between them charged with unspoken possibility, a reminder that even in apocalypse, human connection persisted, but the moment passed as alarms flashed on their perimeter sensors. Patrol. Incoming, Elias said, already moving toward his weapons. Vivian nodded, professional mask sliding back into place. 3 days until the ventilation system plan is operational. Try not to die before then. As he slipped into the night, Elias realized something had shifted between them. Something dangerous yet vital. In this ghost world, they were finding reasons to survive, not just resist. Meanwhile, in her command ship hovering above the ruins of Chicago, General Kira Vaughn stared at the latest casualty reports, tracing a finger over the pattern of mysterious deaths. A suspicion formed in her mind, terrible and fascinating. The human isn't extinct, she whispered. It evolves. The alien outpost rose like a geometric nightmare against the horizon, all sharp angles and pulsing lights. Elias and Vivian approached under cover of an electrical storm, their faces illuminated momentarily by flashes of lightning. The nanites in their bloodstreams responded to the atmospheric charge, creating a tingling sensation beneath their skin. Remember, Vivian whispered, we need access to their central database. The ventilation plan isn't enough. We need to understand why. They're here. Elias nodded, checking his modified weapon. 15 minutes maximum. After that, security protocols will detect the intrusion. They moved in perfect synchronization, a consequence of the nanites harmonizing their neural patterns during close proximity. What should have been months of training had been compressed into days of heightened connection. The outpost's outer door yielded to Vivian's reprogrammed access chip. Inside, they navigated corridors designed for beings slightly taller than humans, stepping over threshold barriers calibrated for different gravity sensibilities. At the central terminal, Vivian worked with practiced efficiency while Elias stood guard. Her fingers danced across alien interfaces, the nanites translating complex Vextar data structures into comprehensible information. "This is strange," she murmured. "They're running massive genetic sequencing operations. Human, animal, plant, everything. Biological weapons research?" Elias suggested. "No." Vivian's voice trailed off as her eyes widened. "It's genetic degradation. Their species is dying." Before she could elaborate, alarms blared. They had overstayed their window. The escape route became a gauntlet of security measures. During a firefight, with Vextar guards, an energy pulse caught Vivian in the side. She crumpled against Elias, who half-carried her through maintenance shafts until they reached the relative safety of abandoned human sewage tunnels miles from the facility. In a small maintenance room, illuminated only by emergency lighting, Elias examined Vivian's wound. The energy weapon had cauterized the flesh but disrupted the nanite activity surrounding the injury. "I need to restart the nanite repair sequence," he said, fingers hovering over the damaged tissue. Vivian nodded, teeth clenched against pain. "Direct neural transfer, your nanites to mine." They both knew what this meant. Neural transfer required intimate contact, skin to skin. Minds temporarily merged through the nanite connection, not just physical intimacy, but something deeper. "Are you sure?" Elias asked. Vivian reached up, her hand against his cheek. We're possibly the last two humans on Earth. Boundaries seem somewhat irrelevant. Elias placed his hand over her wound, closed his eyes, and activated the transfer protocol through mental commands to his nanites. The sensation was overwhelming. Vivian's consciousness brushing against his, memories and sensations flooding. Between them, he felt her brilliance, her grief for colleagues lost, her determination. She experienced his military precision, his loneliness before the invasion, his driving rage against Kiravon. The nanites required prolonged contact to complete the repair sequence. As they waited, physical awareness returned. They were pressed, together in the small space, breath mingling, heartbeats synchronizing. "Your mind is beautiful," Vivian whispered, her face inches from his. So ordered, yet passionate. Words seemed inadequate. Elias leaned forward slowly, giving her time to refuse. Instead, she met him halfway, their lips connecting with gentle urgency. The kiss deepened, nanites amplifying every sensation, a kaleidoscope of feeling against the backdrop of a dead world. They clung to each other, finding in this connection something the aliens couldn't take, humanity's capacity for tenderness amid devastation. Later, as they lay together on improvised bedding, Vivian traced the silvery patterns on Elias's chest. "The Vextar aren't conquerors by nature," she said. "Their genetic material is deteriorating, each generation more unstable than the last." Earth is their salvation, Elias realized. Compatible DNA. Not just compatible, ideal. She propped herself up, wincing slightly at her healing wound. Kiravon's logs indicate she's opposed to their traditional method. Total harvesting of indigenous species. Elias frowned. She's destroying humanity out of mercy. She believes coexistence is impossible, that humans would never accept Vextar presence. Vivian's eyes met his. What if she's wrong? Before Elias could respond, their perimeter alert vibrated, a Vextar patrol, closer than any previous encounter. They dressed quickly, the intimate moment receding behind tactical necessity. Yet something had fundamentally changed between them. Purpose expanded beyond vengeance to include possibility. Meanwhile, aboard her command vessel, Kiravon reviewed security footage from the compromised outpost. She froze the image on two humanoid figures, one male, one female, moving with impossible coordination. "The last humans," she murmured, a complex emotion crossing her features. Recognition, respect, and something approaching fear. She dismissed her attendants with a sharp gesture. For the first time since the invasion began, General Kiravon questioned her mission. The nanite dispersal device hummed with deadly potential as Elias secured it to the ventilation intake of the Vextar Regional Command Center. 3 weeks of careful planning had led to this moment, the first large-scale deployment of Vivian's enhanced nanite virus, activation in 3, 2, 1. He whispered into his communication device. The machine pulsed once, releasing an invisible cloud of microscopic machines into the alien structure's air supply. Within hours, the nanites would infiltrate the neural systems of every Vextar inside, corrupting their hierarchical thought patterns and turning disciplined soldiers into confused, paranoid individuals unable to distinguish friend from foe. Elias retreated to their rendezvous point, an abandoned observatory that offered both cover and a clear view of the command center. Through high-powered binoculars, he watched as the first signs of chaos emerged, guards firing on their own kind, officers barricading themselves in secure rooms, communication arrays blasting contradictory orders. "It's working," he reported, as Vivian joined him at the observation window. "Their entire command structure is collapsing." She studied the unfolding disorder with clinical detachment, though Elias could sense her satisfaction through their nanite-enhanced connection. Over the past weeks, their neural link had strengthened, allowing them to share impressions and emotions across distances. Kiravon will realize what's happening, Vivian said, turning to the array of salvaged equipment that served as their tactical center. This attack is too significant to ignore. An explosion rocked the observatory, throwing them both to the ground as the western wall collapsed. Through dust and debris, armored Vextar soldiers poured into the room, weapons trained on the humans. Elias reached for his gun, but froze as a familiar copper-skinned figure stepped through the breach. General Kiravon stood taller than her soldiers, her exoskeletal armor gleaming with embedded medals. In person, she was even more imposing than in broadcasts, a perfect specimen of her species, unmarred by the genetic degradation affecting her kind. "The ghosts of Earth," she said, her translator, converting alien vocals into harsh English. "I've been anticipating this meeting." Elias positioned himself between Kiravon and Vivian. "How did you find us?" The alien general's obsidian eyes reflected the emergency lighting. "Your nanite signal. Impressive technology, but it creates distinctive electromagnetic patterns once you know what to look for." She gestured to her soldiers, who moved to separate the humans. Elias fought with nanite-enhanced strength, managing to incapacitate 3 before an energy pulse knocked him unconscious. When he awoke, Vivian was gone. A holographic message hovered before him, Kiravon's face rotating slowly in 3 dimensions. "The female researcher is now in my custody aboard the command ship," the recorded message stated. "Your nanite corruption is spreading through my forces. Impressive tactical achievement. If you wish to see her alive again, surrender yourself and all remaining nanite research at the primary landing site in the human city of Chicago within 6 planetary rotations." Elias slammed his fist against the wall, the nanites in his system, amplifying his rage into something almost unbearable. The connection he shared with Vivian had gone silent. Either she was unconscious, or Kiravon had found a way to block their link. He had spent months planning his revenge against the alien general. Now, faced with Vivian's capture, his priorities shifted. His feelings for her, complicated, intense, and deepened by their neural connection, overrode his original mission. Gathering what equipment survived the attack, Elias activated their emergency protocols, reaching out to scattered resistance cells Vivian had discovered. Most were small groups of survivors with limited capabilities, but together they might create enough distraction for him to infiltrate Kiravon's command ship. As he worked, the nanites in his system began showing him flashes of Vivian's consciousness, brief, distorted images suggesting she had regained consciousness. She was in a medical laboratory, strapped to an examination table as Vextar scientists studied her. More disturbing was the clear image of Kiravon standing over Vivian, not with cruelty, but with curious respect. "Your species should have surrendered," the general was saying. "We could have preserved much of your culture, your achievements, while harvesting our DNA." Vivian's voice came through the connection with startling clarity. "To save billions of my kind." Kiravon moved closer. "I was not always a general. Once, I studied your world, lived among humans, disguised, learning. Your potential fascinated me." The connection faded before Elias could hear more, but the revelation stunned him. Kiravon had been on Earth before the invasion, had studied humans directly. This changed everything. The general didn't see humans as mere resources. She understood them, perhaps even respected them in her way. As night fell, Elias prepared for the most dangerous mission of his life. Not for vengeance now, but for Vivian, the woman who had given him purpose beyond hatred, and perhaps for a different kind of victory than he had originally envisioned. The command ship loomed like a black sun against the night sky, its surface absorbing rather than reflecting light. Elias approached through the ruins of Chicago's financial district, nanites heightening his senses to detect Vextar patrols. The resistance cells had launched coordinated attacks across 3 continents, drawing attention away from his infiltration. His modified stealth suit, enhanced with salvaged alien technology, rendered him nearly invisible to standard Vextar sensors. But reaching Kiravon's private chambers required more than stealth. It required the command codes Vivian had extracted during their outpost raid. The neural connection between them had strengthened again as he neared the ship. Through flashes of shared consciousness, he knew she remained alive, her scientific curiosity engaged, despite her captivity. She was learning things about the Vextar that changed everything. Boarding the massive vessel proved easier than expected. Security had been diverted to handle the worldwide disturbances. Once inside, Elias moved through service corridors designed for maintenance drones, following the blueprint Vivian had memorized. Near the central hub, he encountered his first real obstacle, a genetic scanner that would immediately detect his human DNA. The nanites in his system offered a solution, temporarily rewriting his surface cellular structure to mimic Vextar patterns. The transformation was excruciating, every cell in his body screaming in protest as it reconfigured. Biological signature recognized, the automated system announced. Access granted. Beyond the checkpoint, the ship's architecture changed from utilitarian to almost artistic, curved surfaces and bioluminescent patterns reflecting the Vextar aesthetic sensibility. This was the command level, where Kiravon and her highest officers resided. Elias felt Vivian's presence grow stronger, guiding him through the labyrinthine corridors until he reached an ornate doorway inscribed with symbols of rank and achievement. The General's private chambers. No guards stood watch, a testament to Kiravon's confidence or arrogance. The door yielded to the override sequence Elias transmitted through his nanite interface. Inside, the chamber opened into a vast space, dominated by a panoramic viewport showing Earth below. The room's center held not military equipment, but artifacts. Human, art, literature, scientific texts displayed with curatorial care. Vivian stood beside Kiravon near the viewport, both turning as Elias entered. Neither appeared surprised. "He comes for you," Kiravon said to Vivian, her voice carrying the complex harmonics of her native language without translation. As predicted, Elias raised his weapon, nanite-enhanced reflexes ready to deploy the fatal viral load directly into the General's neural system. One command thought would end Earth's conqueror. "Wait," Vivian said, stepping forward. "Elias, she's shown me everything. The truth about their species, about the invasion." "She destroyed our world," Elias replied, weapon unwavering. "To save hers." Vivian moved closer to him, their nanite connection flaring with shared sensations. "The Vextar genetic degradation is terminal. 3 generations at most before extinction. Their scientists discovered that human DNA contains unique sequencing that could stabilize their genome." Kiravon remained motionless, her obsidian eyes fixed on Elias. "Your species possesses remarkable adaptive qualities my kind, lost centuries ago through technological dependence. So you decided to harvest us?" Elias demanded. "The High Command did," Kiravon corrected. "I advocated for cooperative research, voluntary genetic contribution. I was overruled." Vivian touched Elias's arm, sharing through their connection everything she had learned. Kiravon's years on Earth before the invasion, her growing appreciation for humanity, her failed attempts to prevent the attack. "She's been working against her own leadership," Vivian explained. "The medals she wears, tracking devices monitoring her loyalty, the officers you killed, hardliners who supported complete human extermination." Elias lowered his weapon slightly, memories of his military intelligence training surfacing. "You've been running a counter-operation within your own ranks." "With limited success," Kiravon acknowledged, "until you emerged with the nanite technology. It provided an unexpected opportunity. The realization dawned on Elias. You let us attack your command centers. You wanted the nanite virus to spread. To those loyal to the High Command, yes. Kiravon moved to a control panel, activating a holographic display showing Vextar ships worldwide. Nearly half glowed with a distinctive pattern indicating nanite infiltration. Your attacks created the perfect cover for my rebellion. Vivian stepped closer to Elias, her hand finding his. Through their touch flowed her certainty, her belief that this unexpected alliance offered hope where vengeance offered only mutual destruction. The nanites can be reprogrammed, she said softly. Not to destroy their neural networks, but to stabilize them, to transfer the genetic adaptability of humanity without harvesting us. Elias felt the weight of the moment, the choice between completing his mission of revenge or embracing a more complex resolution. In Vivian's eyes, he saw not just the woman he had come to love amid apocalypse, but a vision of possibility. What happens to Earth? He asked Kiravon. To what remains of humanity? Coexistence, the general replied. Difficult, uncertain, but possible. Both our species face extinction separately. Together, we might survive. Elias looked out at the ruined Earth below, then back to Vivian. The key nanites in his system had connected him to her in ways he never imagined possible. Shared thoughts, emotions, sensations, creating a bond beyond physical attraction. If such connection was possible between two humans, enhanced by technology, perhaps connection between species wasn't impossible. He made his decision, lowering his weapon completely. I didn't survive to watch humanity end, he said. I survived to ensure it continues, whatever form that takes. Vivian's smile carried relief and something deeper, recognition of the future they might build together. She stepped into his embrace, as Kiravon turned respectfully away, giving the humans a moment of privacy. Their kiss carried the weight of all they had endured and the promise of what might come, a future neither had imagined when Earth fell. Through their nanite connection flowed not just passion but purpose. The war wasn't over. The real battle for coexistence, for mutual survival, was just beginning. But in this moment, as former enemies became uncertain allies, something had changed. Not victory, not surrender, transformation. Elias held Vivian close, nanites synchronizing their heartbeats as they faced the alien general who had once been their greatest enemy. Together, they would rewrite the story of two species on the brink of extinction, and perhaps find something worth building from the ashes of old worlds.